Are we okay now? Okay, we've got everybody together. Good morning, everyone. 10:01, I'll call this meeting to order. What is today? It is Tuesday, April 29th here in Globe, and 2025, if you don't know that. And so I'll call the meeting to order, and I've asked Mary Springer if she'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, good morning again, everyone. So we have a work session today, and that's pretty low key. We like to talk about a lot of things and just bring that up. We have 3 items, and they're all going to be great items. They'll probably take a little time. So we'll get started, and the first item is 2A, information and discussion, to receive an update from the Gila County Community College Board regarding accreditation and approval and financial state of the organization. And we have a lot of representatives from the board, and so Janice Lawthorne's coming up, and she'll conduct that. And so, yeah, give us your presentation. I think we all have this, and then we can talk.
Good morning. So again, Dr. Janice Lawhorn from Gila Community College. It will be actually 1 year ago tomorrow since we were here last. But I will tell you that there are a lot of updates on what we've been doing the last year. I think you'll be very pleased. So on January 21st of this year, we received an official action letter from Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges indicating that we were awarded candidacy status for 2 years. We also received 1 commendation, 2 compliance requirements for initial accreditation, and 1 recommendation to improve institutional effectiveness. And I'll take you out the end to show you our website where all of these documents are posted for you. In regards to our exemplary performance, we received for fostering a sense of belonging and community with students. One of the things that the ACC-JC site visit team was so impressed was with community support. When we held our events on campus, they said they'll go to other institutions and they might get 3 or 4 people that want to come in and make comments about what's going on at the college. We had about 20 people here in Globe. We had over 30 people in Payson from the community come and show support for the college. And it was not just the number of people that came, but the caliber of individuals that showed up to support the college was extremely impressive, and we thank all of you for that. They also indicated that one of our commendations was that we provide opportunities for engagement, particularly with older adults, high school populations, dual enrollment, and we have career and technical education partners, including with the mines in the area. So they were pretty excited and said we should be a model for the rest of the country for what we do with dual enrollment. In regards to the compliances, we have a compliance requirement, and so they want us to set institution standards and provide meaningful disaggregated data to inform plans for continued improvement. One of the things that we didn't have, of course, is we don't have any students, and so they want us to be able to set those standards for course success, degree and certificate attainment, what our transfer rates are going to be, job placement, as well as licensure examination pass rates. So it's kind of hard to set those standards when we didn't have any students, so we kind of expected this one. In addition to that, they wanted us to operationalize our governance structure. They wanted to see an updated organizational chart, see that our committees were happening like we had indicated they would, and then we have some additional policies and procedures to write. Some of the recommendations they made, actually this was one huge, long recommendation. It was all in 1 sentence. But I broke it up just a little bit so it makes it a little more easier to understand. But they want us to integrate some evidence of impartiality and accountability more directly into our strategic planning, use some disaggregated data to address achievement gaps, increase student feedback, participation, and ensure that our resources, innovations, and long-term planning are aligned with our stated goals and objectives, particularly in upcoming planning sessions for strategic plans. The path to initial accreditation is those items that are listed as requirements will serve as the application for initial accreditation. So we have to respond to the items that they had concerns with. It's due no later than October 1st, 2026. We have to have another peer review team site visit. They'll come to the campuses again. And then what they've indicated to us is that the commission only meets twice a year. They meet in January and they meet in June. And so if we have our items in by October 1 of 2026, then the commission would hear that initial accreditation meeting in January of 2027. So can we get it sooner than that? Yes. And just for clarification, initial accreditation, because I was like, initial accreditation, that sounds like there's something else, like before you get to accreditation. They're like, no, Janice, what that means is initial accreditation just means it's the first time you've ever had it. Then you just go into the same 8-year cycle as the rest of the institutions. And so when we have initial accreditation, we get it by January of 2027. We could also have it by June of 2026. We get all our little ducks in a row. Okay. So one of the issues, I shouldn't say issues, one of the things that we had to take care of right after we got candidacy status in January is submit an application to be able to offer distance education courses. So when a committee comes and reviews an institution and you've been teaching online courses for years and years and years, they just look at your previous semester of courses to see if you have the substantial interaction between the students and faculty and faculty and students. And so since we didn't have a learning management system set up that belonged to EAC, they said you're going to need to submit an application. So I submitted an application. I set up an ad hoc committee, put everything together. I didn't want them to have any questions. I submitted on February 24th. I got approval on February 25th. So we will be teaching online courses to bridge the gap of our great large county, okay, and be able to serve all the residents of Gila County. We are using a system called Brightspace, and we are currently developing courses for distance education. So, student information system, our admissions went live on April 7th. We are in the process right now of admitting students. We anticipate rolling out our new website. If not the end of the week, it'll be the first part of next week. We have a catalog, which I can also show you a link to that catalog as well to see what we've been doing over the last year. We've set up accounts receivable and payables, and then we plan on holding our very first session in July of 2025 for students. So we anticipate offering classes at that point. Mary Springer.
Right behind you.
Where are you? All right, so here you go.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. So as Dr. Lawhorn said, we've been very busy. There's been a lot of parts and pieces to put together to create this wonderful community college. And part of it is library and learning resources. We've gone out to bid and we've gone out to quote for many of these services and provided online resources that meet our students' needs. So we have EBSCO, OVID, we've contracted with a company called Bywater Solutions for the Koha Integrated Library. Online tutoring, who knew there was such a thing? When I went to college, I didn't have that, but it's a really neat option for students that need additional assistance. And we were able to find a vendor called BrainFuse that provides a really great service. We've contracted with them in February of this year after going out for RFP. Accounting and General Ledger, we have QuickBooks Online. We've actually engaged them since August of 24, and we've done our General Ledger setup and our accounts payable and vendor setup, so we're able to pay our vendors. And the nice thing about that we are in the process that we are currently paying our bills. That means that for every bill that we pay, that's 25% less than that we have been paying EAC. So we are in the process of converting all that bill payment. HRS and payroll, Ms. Avila will speak more to that, but we've been engaged with ADP, and we do have some part-time employees at the moment. Oh, it's already changed. Our board minutes, meeting minutes and meetings and our policies are all out there. You're able to get to them from our website. It's a Assembly is really a fantastic system and very easy to use and very easy to read and follow if you want to attend any of the board meetings. We do have a mass notification system that's called Regroup, and that was put into place January 29th of this year. Our marketing campaign is very important to getting this college launched and launched in the right way, where we have a new mascot, we have new colors, we have new videos. So when you go to the website, which I don't know that it's launched to the public, but it's out there for viewing, it's very interactive. And we've engaged with Access Culture for targeted marketing for our cosmetology and fire science program, but we engaged with Razor Thin Media, which I know that you're very familiar with, and they've done an excellent job building our website, and they'll be our marketing partner for the next 2 years. Like I said, new colors, new website, our Gila Hawks mascot. It's very exciting to be part of something being built from the ground up, and all these pieces and all these components really make a new college that's going to be great for our county citizens.
Alrighty, so let me provide you some updates regarding some of the programs that we've been working on. I know many of you have been interested in what's going on with the nursing program. So I can tell you, I have exciting news for what's going on with the nursing program. On April 21st, last Monday, we had the State Board of Nursing come out to the Payson campus. They were originally going to go to our main campus here in Globe and decided to go to the Payson campus due to all the construction and everything, and I guess there was some additional construction down the Phoenix area, but they came up for a site visit at our Payson campus and then did a virtual tour of our Gila Pueblo campus as well while they were there. They have recommended that our provisional application go to the board, go to the full Arizona State Board of Nursing on May 23rd on the consent agenda. And you all know what happens when they put stuff on the consent agenda. That's a great thing. And so on May 23rd, when that is approved at the State Board of Nursing, we will have a nursing program that will start in the fall. We will be able to launch that in the fall. We will be pushing all kinds of social media regarding our nursing program. I do something?
No, it's someone's on the conference line.
Oh, okay. All right. So again, we have to wait until we get approval of our provisional application at the State Board of Nursing on May 23rd before we can physically say we have a nursing program and we can accept students. But that is happening. The Law Enforcement Training Academy program, Lee Kennard has been working on that for the last couple years. We're trying to find they have a name, a sergeant and a, where do I go? An RTO, resource training officer or something, another member. So they're looking for 2 individuals that will be able to assist with that before they can submit that application to AZ Post. But that we're working on that. One of the another program, Asia with Civet and Superintendent O'Neill have launched a mental and social health technician certificate. We are still working on cosmetology. We had a big push. Mary mentioned that we had a big push with Access Marketing for cosmetology and fire science. We are still hoping to get a fire science program in Payson. We have numbers, we have preliminary numbers from the high school, but no students have submitted applications saying yes, they want to do this program. And so I'm working with Mr. Matt Weber because you guys know we have 2 We have 2 CTEDs in the county. We work with Mike O'Neill and Civet down in the southern part, and with Matt Weber, the superintendent of the NAVIT program in the northern part. And so we're still working on to see if we're going to have a fire science program or not. We do believe we will have cosmetology in both areas, though, as of right now. So, Laurie, budget. There's your little quick.
Thank you. Members of the board, Mr. Menlove, thank you so much for having us. And I'm excited to be able to come back. I had the pleasure of visiting with you about a year ago. And I'm now back to say that one of the really fulfilling things that I've been able to do in the last 6 months or so is to begin developing the first Gila Community College budget, driven solely by Gila Community College individuals and information, and really built for us rather than something that has been given to us from another institution. So we have been working for the past many months on developing the first draft budget for 25-26 fiscal year. You can see some very, very broad numbers up there, estimating in revenue from the various sources that we are able to call upon, and then estimating the expenses using whatever information I could find from EAC supplied numbers and things for what our various instructional departments have already been doing the last few years, where our personnel, and I believe we mentioned last year that we fully anticipate bringing every one of those employees that are currently employed by EAC but have been serving Gila County for 20 years, we will be bringing them over to Gila Community College. And so looking back on personnel records and things and developing our benefits program, all those actions were in an effort to develop a budget specific to Gila Community College. And you can see then that we're estimating revenue just under $8 million, and our expenses, as I say, looking back at the trends and information from EAC for the last few years, expenses are estimated to be just actually about $3,000 under that. And I will note that this is a decrease in expenses from the last EAC supplied budget for this current fiscal year that we're in, which was about $8.10 million in expenses, and we've been able to bring it down to just under $8 million. And if you were to look at the, whoops, get it to the next one. Look at the second page in your board packet. Again, it's a little small if you pop it up there on the screen, but those are then some aggregate numbers showing where we got the very brief summary numbers at the beginning. Again, revenue just under $8 million, and we've been able to strategically forecast and develop the expense budget to very much fit within our estimated revenues coming in for 25-26. And we are set to go. July 1st is just around the corner, and it is exciting to know that we are absolutely ready to go. And this budget will also guide us as we go forward, and it will just get better from here. Are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time? Are you going to wait till the end when we do all the questions?
Why don't we wait till the end?
Thank you very much.
If there's something really pressing, though.
Hey,
They'll speak
exactly.
right up.
Feel free. Thank you very much, board.
So again, good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'll be kind of summarizing everything, not only some of the accomplishments, but also the challenges that we face over the next, especially the next 2 years. So let me which button is it? Ta-da, I did it first time. Yeah, well, that's what, yeah, I learned from you, Lori.
There we go.
So the good news is that we did go over our annual audit report from the Auditor General's office. They reviewed that with us at our April board meeting. And again, receiving an unmodified opinion, as you probably know, is good. That the financial information was reliable, that the district auditors did not see any deficiencies or non-compliances. We thank our CPA, Sarah Kirk, who I know you all know, who also works with the county. Our financial coordinator, she worked very closely with our EAC financial coordinator, Trey Morris, and really did a thorough job of ensuring that our books were clean, so to speak, and that the audit came out well. This, again, is very difficult to read. I apologize for everybody trying to read it from the seats, but you have a copy in front of you. And basically, this is just a little bit more detail. It goes through from 2015 how our revenues have increased, how our expenses have increased. The sources have changed a little bit. The state has gone up significantly from 0.6 million to 1.4 million. Grants and contracts, just to clarify, that is typically, for example, the prison program, I believe, and some of those other contracts that also contribute to the revenues. And down further, you'll see that we have the district net position has increased. We have about 0.5 million that will be carried over. And that's pretty typical. That's about the amount that we have been able to carry over and bank, so to speak, above our expenditures. Little clarification on that, of course, is that our revenues and our expenditures, we have been very balanced in that. But as many of you know, we also have the expenditure limit that the state set back in, I think it was 79 and 80, which is a formula based on our enrollments, what's called FTSE, full-time student equivalent enrollments, that the state sets our expenditure limit based on the number of enrollments we have, even though our revenues far exceed that amount. So this year, this is preliminary, but I think we're very close if we haven't finalized it. I think at the time that I sent the presentation, it was still preliminary, but it shows that we are about 1.9 million over the expenditure limit. Okay, and that's, you know, taking into account the amount. There are certain funds that do not fall under that expenditure limit, including the IGA, the monies that you provide from the county. So we are still dealing with that, but obviously it's very important for us to address that situation. The main reason for the decrease in FTSE was primarily COVID certainly played a big part in that. And then also with the EAC making the determination that all online courses would originate from the Thatcher campus. And according to the contract we have, I don't want to call it a loophole, but it was an interpretation about the origin of the course. And so that really hurt us significantly. Just to give you an idea, in 2019, before COVID, we were averaging just under 700 FTSE. Okay, for the expenditure limit, it was actually, there's a little different formula in how they calculate that. It was right around 750. This year, in 23 and 24, we're barely staying over 450, which would be the minimum required by the state to be recognized. So it's been a challenge then, of course, not only receiving monies from the state for operating expenses, but also dealing with the expenditure limit. And the decision that was made this year by the board is we have the option of either supplementing our budget with the excludable dollars, which didn't really make sense because again, we weren't, you're gonna go, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I forgot that that's actually outlined here. We had the choice of either reducing that fund balance that we have by almost 45% to show that we had the money, even though we paid all of our bills. We were not operating in the red, or we pay roughly 1/3 of the state operating funding that they give us, which right now we don't receive. I guess the sort of mixed blessing is we only receive about $150,000 from the state for operating expenses. So the penalty is estimated at $50,000. That will not actually go into effect, or the penalty won't be assessed until 2026. So we're, still trying to be very fiscally responsible in dealing with this. And that will continue. Probably that's one of our main challenges over the next couple of years. So to kind of talk about those next 2 years, again, we're very excited. The infrastructure should be ready to go by July 1. Contract ends with the EAC June 30th. We will open our doors as we've been around for almost 25 years, but will officially be Gila Community College, independent community college. And along with that, of course, let me just, a note about the admissions and registration. We are getting students admitted. We should start that process. Many students, hundreds of students now have actually applied for admission. It's a little confusing to students to say, well, I've been taking classes for years. It's like, we need to get you into the GCC system. They're in there. We will then go through the next step of admissions, and then we should be ready to start registering them for courses by, we hope, mid-May. They're chomping at the bit. They want to make sure they get in that ceramics class or that English section, so we'll be ready to go. Also, of course, payroll and HR, as Lori mentioned beforehand, trying to make sure that we get all of the employees transitioned over to the system. Faculty have different contracts than staff, so we're working on all that as well. And of course, the budget. And as I said, we have a head start on that since we have been working on that for several months. So we need to increase enrollments. That is probably our top priority. We expect to do that. We will have expanded course offerings. We will be back to the 2-year programs. As mentioned before, we will be starting the nursing programs at both campuses in the fall. We will also be able to start the cosmetology program again on both campuses. We were a little concerned about Payson. We've kind of reformatted that program so that it fits students' schedules a little bit better. And so we should have a start on that other 2-year program, all of the other certificate programs that will continue, and then a big one of reestablishing our online courses. Again, we are focused on making sure that we get to a fully sustainable budget. Dealing with that expenditure limit is part of that. And one of the ways that we can also deal with the expenditure limit, I don't know if you're aware of it, 2 of the other community college districts in the state, Maricopa and Graham County, EAC, had a ballot measure in 2024. The EAC one was Prop 402. I'm not sure if that would be consistent. But basically, it was to raise the expenditure limit. And what Graham County did was add to the formula that the state uses a multiplier that would take in inflationary factor, which has never been there. So it basically doubles the level on the expenditure limit. Okay, so it doesn't do away with the expenditure limit, but it certainly raises it to a much more reasonable amount. And I believe that passed in both counties. I wasn't as familiar. Of course, Maricopa is so much bigger, but Graham County passed 4-1. Okay, so almost 80% of the voters agreed. Not asking, it's not new taxes, it's just that we are able to spend the money that we have. So we plan on doing that in 2026. We know that it'll take public education and awareness, just like the override did for the public schools. So we're prepared to do that. So that's kind of what we have planned. Before we conclude, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you, to the county. We would not be where we are without the IGA that you have funded for us for 3 years. Having that money to be able to hire an interim president who is now officially the college president, Dr. Janice Lawhorn. Also our consultants, such as Lori Avila, Mary Springer, and of course, Sean Wakefield, who is our IT person. The upfront expenses of developing the IT systems, all of that, it has been tremendously, tremendously helpful. We would not be where we are without that. I also, before closing, want to thank our other board members, the GCC board members who are here, our Vice President Mickey Nye, our Secretary Connie Cockrell, and our Treasurer Fernando Shipley. Member Kurt Knaus was not able to be here today. We also have Senior Dean Phil McBride here, hopefully, oh, Ann McKnights, who is the campus Associate Director for now for the Payson campus, if I missed anybody associated, but we've all worked together as a team. And again, we wouldn't be where we are without that sense of teamwork and dedication. So we have, I believe the IGA was written to be a 5-year agreement. We have 2 years left on the IGA. We are most appreciative of that support. However, I will say, I believe that in some of the conversations, there's been a, if there's anything else we can do kind of statement. If there's anything else that we would ask would just be any additional financial assistance would certainly help us through this 2 years while we get the enrollments back up and get the budget all in place. We don't expect it. I'm just saying that we would greatly appreciate it. And we certainly appreciate what you have offered us for these last 3 years and hopefully the next 2 years. So I believe that's it. Questions, comments, anything that needs to be added?
Thank you, Dr. Brocker, and the other presenters. So let's talk some. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, questions. There's probably a million questions that time will take care of, apparently, over the course of time as we go forward, because it's answered a lot of questions for us from where we started to where we are now, because it was pretty meek and muddy there for a while, and so time just answered a lot of questions, and I feel that way with going forward as it is now, that time will answer a lot of questions that I might have, or as well as the public, and I think it's great that you be able to start having people at the college. And so today I just thank you very much for the presentation today. I think it was prepared well, and it's great to hear the news of how you're going forward. And I appreciate all of your persistence, because like I said, it hasn't been an easy road. It's been a rough road, and they've taken a lot of slack. And if you read the newspaper in Payson, you still get some rocks thrown every once in a while. So I appreciate your persistence and continuing to work to do this. And I think it'll be better for Gila County as we go forward. And I wish you all the luck in the world, but with your persistence, I don't see any issues. But I wish you all the luck in the world getting your ducks in a row and keeping them in a row, because sometimes they waddle where they want to. So I appreciate you, your persistence in working, and thanks for the presentation today.
Thank you, Supervisor Humphrey. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Klein.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging in there. That was quite a rough road. The college is very, very important to Gila County. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of emails I received while you guys were working all the way through this and wanting it to get ironed out and get back on track. And I know that the constituents in Gila County will benefit greatly by it. And the one question I guess I would have for you on the footsie part of it, do you think it'll take the 2 years to get your numbers up, or you think in the first year you'll see that jump?
Well, we certainly hope that we'll see a huge increase. Again, we're trying to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. But all indications, we were very steady with being between, I would say, 700 to 750 until, like I said, COVID and the other chain of events. So I think we've had numerous discussions about expanding the current programs, adding new programs. What's nice, and I think the benefit to all residents of Gila County, is that we have the oversight now for post-secondary education in Gila County. And we're not beholden to someone else making those decisions for us. So I am extremely optimistic. I'm absolutely sure we'll see an increase, but trying to be realistic of getting to where we were, because that was a pretty heavy hit that we took.
If I could just add to that. So I tried to get numbers going, okay, how many footsie did we lose with the online program? And I couldn't get clear numbers, but in some additional conversations and in additional research, it appears that we had over 500 students in Gila County taking online courses through EAC, in which, and if each one of those took a 3-credit class, that's 1,500 student credit hours divided by 30, that's 50 footsie right there. So I'm very optimistic that we've got some excellent faculty. Again, we have not lost any faculty. We anticipate bringing over all of the faculty. Will be in the process during the summer of building their online courses, and then again, we know we'll have some offerings the first, what we'll call summer 2, but it'll be classes during the summer session of July.
Good.
So I anticipate growing that footsie over the next year for sure. Just with online courses, not counting, where we'll bring in some additional enrollment with a nursing program, beefing up some other certificates, and if we can get a law enforcement training academy program going, and then we can start listening to our community and figuring out what it is they would like us to see, to see at the colleges, both in the northern and southern part of the county. So.
Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing. I'm sure it's going to work out fine. So we really appreciate it.
Well, I will tell you, it's been a rough year. It's been it's actually been a rough 2 years. Let's go with that, okay? It's been a very rough 2 years, but very rewarding to have come this far, and to be part of something like this is awesome. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you.
Just see if any questions from
Doctors, yeah, I do want to say something, and then, we can keep talking. So, thanks for the presentation, very good. And it has been rough, and I guess you'd say I was critical of the process that was out there, not of personalities. And I was worried that you wouldn't be able to accomplish what you've done, and I am so pleasantly surprised that you have. You really have done a great, it's just astonishing what you've been able to do in the last year. Because I thought what it would take 3 years to get where we are today. And so I congratulate you for that. You made some changes that needed to be made and went another way, and it's working. And I'm really excited because we all believe in having the college here in Gila County.
Well, Supervisor Christensen, if I could just say that ACCJC indicated no one has ever done what we have done. And when you put the jams on it, Kay, we were on it. We were working until 11 o'clock at night. We were working weekends. We were working holidays. We were working for the residents of Gila County. And that was our goal, was to get to where we are today. So very pleased. Thank you.
Yeah, you've done really great. And I'm so excited that I can be here and a part of something that's been over a 20-year process to get to. And here it is right now, literally a month away from being fully going. And so the dual enrollment at the high school, that's going to continue?
Yes.
Are those called footsies?
Yes. Dual enrollment actually is 50% because it's considered, the high school get funding for those students and then the college gets funding for that. So you get half footsie for dual enrollment. But yes, we're working. In fact, I was proofreading a NAVIT and CIVIT agreement yesterday so that we're getting ready to set up those agreements with our CTEDs. And then the next process, we've already sent, I know our campuses are working on the dual enrollment agreements with the high schools right now. Yes.
And just to give you an idea, I'm not sure about the Gila Pueblo, the Globe campus. The Payson campus on dual enrollment saw an increase from 100, I think it was a head count or credits, and 100 students to 140 this past fall. So the high school has been instrumental in increasing those enrollments as well. So we're working, the largest population I think we have are the population 20 and younger. The second largest is our 55 and over. So we're also trying to increase the enrichment offerings that are so important to so many of our retirees and local residents. So we have a plan, and it's mainly just to keep investing in our communities and hearing what the residents need and want. That's our plan.
Yeah, I think it's really going great. I'm excited to hear about the future offerings as they start coming, because this is just the birth of something, and it's going to start growing and doing much better. And the high school students can really, honestly, if they work at it, can graduate with a high school diploma and on the same day have an AA.
They'd actually graduate with the associate's degree
Yes.
sooner than they graduate from high school. That
Right.
is a possibility,
And
yes.
and that's a
Does happen.
tremendous leap forward and all of that. So, and I hope we get this expenditure limit thing figured out. Is that something the legislature could do?
We're working with our lobbyist on a number of different fronts now that we should be fully recognized by the state and no longer, as you can tell, we're no longer a provisional college. So I think there'll be some opportunities on the expenditure limit, on possible additional funding from the state. Of course, all of that's kind of in question right now. But yes, we're working very closely with James Camlin, our lobbyist.
Okay, I'm going to ask our manager, Menlove, if he could clarify the IGA that we have with you guys, because it was mentioned that it was a 5-year process, and but those are generally very specifically written for purpose in that. Could you clarify where we are with that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I want to congratulate both of you. I know that we started talking about this 4 or 5 years ago, that you came and we had discussions with the county of wanting to go in this path. Congratulations. That is
Thank you.
a tremendous undertaking, and you've taken, I went to the meetings where you were up on a stage being criticized heavily for the detrimental things you're doing to the kids of Gila County.
Well, and let me just clarify, we understand, there was a lot of uncertainty, and so we really totally understand where that came from, absolutely.
Thank you for sticking to it, and thank you for getting us to this point. Tremendous. I want to express appreciation also to the board, members of the board, that it's under the direction of our boards that we can accomplish things. So Dr. Brocker and the rest of the board, thank you for that. I'd also like to acknowledge Representative Cook, that
Yes.
he introduced legislation that really made this possible, that he did some adjustments in the state law, some that still need to be made, but it made it possible to do that. So thank you, Representative Cook, for enabling Gila County to become our own community college district. Going to the financial end of that agreement, when we first talked, we were talking about 5 to 10 years minimum to be able to get to this point and be accredited. And so that's why the IGA was for 5 years, to make sure that we had enough sufficient time to be able to get to this point. I haven't talked to the board, and so this is just me speaking about how I approach financial and working with other governmental units, because Gila Community College is a separate legal entity, separate governmental entity. And I am very much opposed to that one government should support another governmental entity in maintenance and operating expenses. And I think we've had the discussion that we do it for one-time projects, and that's how we looked at this, that we would support this financially as a one-time project. It was going to take multiple years to get there, but it was a one-time project. And so I believe in my mind right now that we have fulfilled the obligation or the purpose that we entered into the IGA. I know you said we have a 5-year, we'd like to look for it, but what I've talked to our finance director and have included in the county's budget for fiscal year 26 is the $250,000 that is a potential support to the college. So the money is included in, will be, based on approval by the Board of Supervisors, included as a potential that we can partner with the college. What I would ask is, what are the dollars going to be spent specifically for? And come back to the county of what it means for us to partner with the college.
Well, let me clarify a couple of things, and I'm sure Dr. Lawhorn will want to add to that. We are, the nomenclature, or the lingo that's used around accreditation is somewhat confusing. Having candidacy status, there is no such thing as being partially accredited. We are able to accredit our own courses. However, we have not finished the accreditation process. And the final sort of designation is the initial accreditation. So we have 2 more years to get to that level. So the project that has been funded continues, okay, up until we have that initial accreditation. We hope it's less than 2 years, but we have that time period. The way I've explained it to people is candidacy. Anybody that follows baseball, we're in the majors, okay? Now we've got to prove our worth, and then the initial accreditation means we're at starting lineup, and we get on the cycle. So it's just moving a little further down the road. We are accredited, but we have to build the track record, and then we will start the typical reaccreditation 8-year cycle.
Sure.
So I do want to clarify that we have accomplished an extremely important milestone, but the next 2 years is going to be focused on some of the upfront expenses associated with the infrastructure as well as personnel. We still need some of the expertise, the consultants that have been working with us to make sure we get things in place. We also have to work on the national accreditation for the nursing program that's called ASEN. So there's still a lot of building to do in the next 2 years. I love the way Dr. Lawhorn describes it. Yes, we're going to be the newest community college in the state of Arizona, but we've been around for like 25 years. So there's a lot of sort of dichotomies in how we're operating. So that's to answer your question, hopefully, and we can certainly provide any detail.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, you've done something that has never been done. I don't know if it's in the country. You've done something that's never been done, at least in Arizona. I think they set these provisional community colleges up and a path to get there, but I don't know that anybody ever expected this to be done. Never been done, so.
Well, Mr. Menlove, that, I suppose if there would have been a path, this would have been a whole lot easier. The problem was there really was no path. When Arizona set these up, they gave a 5-member elected volunteer board the goal of creating a community college. It was never going to happen.
Yeah.
It was expected to happen.
But never going to happen.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to add is that in conversation with the other provisional district in the state, they are excited by the fact that we did this, and now they think they want to go down the same path. So we're blazing a trail for others for sure, and I said that's exciting as well.
You certainly have. Mr. Chairman, if I could, in closing out, at least as far as I'm concerned, comment about the partnership, financial partnership. This past audit year, we had two we had an audit finding for two entities that we had. They were other governmental entities that the Auditor General wrote us up because we didn't have I guess in their minds, sufficient report of how the money was spent. And so this is just a part of the way we are being required to do business, that we have to have a report of where the money has been spent to ensure that it met the requirements and everything that was specified in the IGA. And so in asking this, that to come back to the Board of Supervisors at a future time, the money will be in the budget. Come to them saying, this, you're going forward with what you've described here today, and then to request the dollars, saying this is what we're going to accomplish, and then at the end of the year we'll have to have a report, which essentially is what you're doing there today with your financial reports and things that you're getting to the County Finance Department as well.
Well, and Mary Springer alluded to a lot of the things that we spent your money on, okay? We need a library, we need a learning management system, we need a student information system, we need an accounting system. Yeah, we've building our infrastructure, and then of course personnel costs, but yes, that's what we've been doing with your funds.
And that's all in a formal report that we
Okay.
submit to the Auditor
Yes.
General.
And we
We'll
can
have
do
to-
that. I think what's happened, and we've kind of folded it into our general operating budget now, and it's of course under restricted funds. But just the salary for the interim president and consultants exceeds that $250,000. So we can show that we have used the money wisely, but the amount of expenditures for, I would just call it startup costs, startup expenses, far exceeds that to 250. So we can work with you to make sure that that you are accountable as well as us being accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Menlove. Any more questions, Supervisor?
No, I don't have any questions. It's just the whole time I've been a supervisor, we've funded the college and the 250,000 has been there. It's just prior to that, and when I first became a supervisor, we were 7 years behind in our audit, so we didn't demand where you spend your money because we weren't keeping account of, well, the county wasn't. And so now I don't see any reason for that money to not be there. I think it is a benefit to the public. And like I say, you know, everybody has to be accountable for where it's spent, but in my 2 cents worth, I don't see any reason why it couldn't continue, because it's definitely a benefit to the public and a benefit to the county, because the money's not going to another county. It's staying within Gila County, which is extremely important. So, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Okay, great.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, so I think we just have to make sure that all of our agreements are meeting what the agreement was for. And you bring up a pretty solid point in that you're really not accredited yet, and that was the purpose of the money, to achieve accreditation. You've achieved candidacy and a preliminary kind of accreditation, but you're not quite there yet. So we can have those discussions, and yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I do add, and Dr. Lawhorn, I know we talked about this years ago when I first came to Gila County, of potentially increasing the footsie and stuff by offering, we look for training at the county level, and some of the things that we are looking for, I've got a list of them here of different areas, maybe a leadership academy or different things that we could partner with the college. I know when EAC was running things that we kind of had to fit what EAC specified with our own college. I hope that we can tailor to needs of individual entities. I was speaking last week at a conference for economic development, speaking to businesses in Gila County, Resolution, Freeport, McMoran, and those people of the needs that they have for training, and perhaps we can boost our footsie by working with you to customize training for our employees. That would be a great opportunity.
Well, that was one of the first conversations that you and I had, I believe, just about a little over 4 years ago. I was very excited about that opportunity. I think it's a wonderful type of synergy where it's a win-win, where we're investing in each other. And we certainly, as you said, now we can finally make it a reality in my mind. Absolutely.
Well, having local control and having, our committee meetings, meeting at the Payson campus or at the Globe campus that are making those decisions on, we'll have curriculum committee says, okay, the county wants to do this. Okay, how's this going to work? What's this going to look like? All right, let's put an IGA together. Let's make this work. And those local decisions are going to make us move forward. Going to help us, get that boost to move forward for sure. So yes, we're excited about that.
And just one other point of clarification, because I know if the media is, is anywhere near. We are an accredited community college. We are able to accredit all of our courses. They will be transferable to, not only we're working on articulation agreements or agreements with the 3 major state universities, but students will be able to transfer their coursework to any college or university in the country, again, with, if they meet those requirements for degrees and that kind of thing. But it's just, the candidacy status kind of throws people, but I just want to ensure people that while we haven't completed the entire accreditation process, we are at the point where, we could use a word like preliminary, but we are definitely accredited.
You can't be partially accredited.
Yeah.
And you can't even
Or
be
sort of.
fully accredited or kind of accredited. There's none of that terminology. You don't use that terminology. You either are or you aren't. We are in, again, candidacy status, which allows us, like Dr. Brocker said, to offer our own programs and certificates as well as degrees and have a graduation ceremony, do everything that other community colleges in the state of Arizona do. But we still have a couple hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Mr.
Chairman, one last thing, if
Okay,
I
on.
could,
Yes, sir.
and then I'll zip it. If there's anything that we can do through our public information office, Paul Walterbeek and Carol Broder, anything to help tell the story, to get the news out there, like we talked about the online students, how do you go about getting them back into the fold and that kind of thing. So if there's anything that we can do to help you tell the story, great story, please let us know, and we, hearing from the board, that we would be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
And one additional thing I'd like to mention, I didn't bring up our website, but we hope to launch our new website by the end of the week. We are going from Gila, where we were Gila County Community College District. We are Gila Community College. We're going to GCC. So right now our website is gilaccc.org. We are going to gilacc.org, I said, and brand new website's good. It's awesome. Okay, should be by the end of the week, we hope, and we'll put it out on social media. We've been sharing things with the county as well, been working with Paul, getting things out there, but we have hired Razor Thin to do our marketing, and we're sending everything through them, so.
Yes, we appreciate that support, and if others in the community want to know how to support the college, take classes. Come and enroll and take classes and help us with those enrollments. So, and again, financial support, certainly, all of the types of support that we've had throughout, we are greatly appreciative.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
Oh, look at that. It's
Oh
11
my
o'clock.
gosh.
There's
Okay.
our hour.
Straight up.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
And thank all of you for being here that are part of this. And so, thank you. Very good. It's an exciting day.
Very exciting.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And so with that, let's keep moving to item 2B. Information discussion regarding power companies, 2025 wildfire mitigation efforts, included an update on the public safety power shutdown program. Carl's going to present. We have 2 companies here. We have APS and SRP. And so we have the ability to ask questions to any of them and all of that. Now, we'll say, to start with, Carl, we're pretty familiar with the program, so, okay.
Yes, absolutely. So I won't go into any of the details that they're going to share or repeat anything over from the presentation last year, but there have been updates to the individual power companies' specific plans. So they've been doing a lot of outreach in the communities and talking to the public, talking with each of you specifically. But I thought it'd be beneficial to bring both companies here to share this update and maybe become a trend moving forward, that if they are updating their plan each year, to maybe bring them forward to you guys. So I'll have APS come up first and share their updates. And Chairman, I'll leave it to you and the board. If you want to hold questions to the end, you can ask questions of either of these companies or of myself on our response, or you can ask the questions during. It's entirely up to you, but I'll let APS go ahead and start and introduce themselves.
Thank you, Carl. We have Janet Dean. Hello.
Hello. Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Thank you so much for inviting us to come have this conversation with you today. I'm Janet Dean, Public Affairs Manager for Northern Gila County. I have Northern Gila County in my territory with APS. I'm joined by Richard Rosales, who has Southern Gila County. He's also a Public Affairs Manager, and Brian Goslin, who is the supervisor here in the Globe, out of our Globe dock. So because you are so familiar and because we do present so often to you individually and then to community groups that you're at and then here, I'll keep this really high level. This, and you have in your packet, this is our comprehensive fire mitigation plan. It's got 5 pillars, which you can see there: vegetation management, grid hardening, asset inspection, monitoring and awareness, and then our operational mitigation processes that we have. I will really quickly, if you'll indulge me, I want to bring your attention to one item under monitoring and awareness, because this is a newer program for us. See, so we have installed a series of AI 360-degree cameras across northern Arizona. We've got several installations, including a few here in Gila County. And what these do is these give us data and line of sight to fire starts and within northern Arizona. And we've got all of our fire departments, regional dispatch centers, all of them have been approached and asked if they want to be part of, have access to this and see these. This is just a quick picture from one of our cameras. It is out of one of the first ones we installed, which was on Mount Eldon and Flagstaff. It shows smoke that it's detected. And we are seeing great success with these cameras. And I will tell you a story out of Flagstaff. I was just presenting or at a meeting recently, and the Coconino Forest Supervisor was there and said he wanted to test these. And so they were doing a controlled burn or a managed burn fire start. And they timed it from the time they ignited the source to when they got notified from our system, and it was less than 6 minutes. So these are working. We're seeing them, not just that little test that he did, but we also had a story out of the Prescott area where there was a fire start. 2 of these cameras both picked it up, so they were able to triangulate and get first responders within yards of the start. And we've been told that it was probably based on the geography of where the fire started, probably an hour and a half to 2 hours before they would have picked it up any other way. So we're excited by these cameras. And this is kind of a map of all of the technology we've been putting out over the last few years. And the reason for this technology is we want to make data-driven decisions, and we did not have sources for that data, so we're installing it ourselves. But we've got the top left is pano tilt zoom cameras. So these are cameras looking at our lines. We've got these AI cameras that we're installing across northern Arizona, and then we've got a series of weather stations. So with that, I'm going to go back to the other change this year, big change to our fire mitigation program, is in our public safety power shutoff program. Last year, we were here in front of you talking to you about our first initial 13 lines that we put into this program, and through continued risk analysis, fire modeling, we've now grown that to 65 lines across northern Arizona, and there are several more lines in Gila County that are impacted, including instead of just part of Pine, all of Pine and Strawberry, part of Payson, all of Star Valley, and then
part of Globe and all of Miami. All of Miami. So we have seen this program grow here. Couple things to remind you about. These are forecastable events, so we'll know several days in advance. Our fire mitigation team and meteorologists will be monitoring developing weather patterns, so we'll know several days in advance and be able to start working with Carl and other partners 4 to 5 days in advance, and also notifying our customers directly 4 days in advance. They also are infrequent. When we did our historical look, we saw 4 times in 5 years somewhere across northern Arizona we might have had to call one of these events. And we also know through that historical research that on average they'll last about 20 hours. So again, I know you're very, very familiar with this. We have a lot more we can share, but I'll pause there and let SRP come up and
Any
present.
questions for APS first?
Okay.
No, not right now, I don't. Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right.
Janet, how's the Forest Service working with you guys on that line mitigation as far as vegetation? Did it get off the ground where they're gonna help with some of that right-of-way issues?
Yeah, my understanding is we've been working with them, especially in the area you were concerned about, and that, don't quote me because I'm not in the weeds here, but I know I think they've even actually had some of their timber sales and their own thinning projects protecting those lines. So I think the partnership is working well. I can get you more details. That's about as much as I know on it.
Yeah, when we were looking at that, you guys have that 20-foot right-of-way, and that pine type is not much. And so I was really hoping that's going somewhere. And I haven't had the chance to visit with the ranger out of Payson to speak of that, but it would be good if they could widen your right-of-ways out.
I don't know if they've officially widened the right-of-way, but I know the Forest Service is focusing along that right-of-way for some of their mitigation efforts.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janet.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, just real quickly, because Carl asked me to touch on this, we are doing as much community outreach as we possibly can. We've been in front of all the city councils or town councils for the municipalities impacted. We're working with community organizations like Pine Strawberry Fuel Reduction and Rimfire Wildfire Awareness, Rim Country Chamber. We've got some community events coming up. We've participated in the Northern and Southern Gila County community symposiums that were just done on wildfire. We're working with the Fire Chiefs Association. So I know we've got folks coming to your Tonto Basin community meeting next week is my understanding. So if there's any events in your districts that you want to see us at, just make sure you let us know.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. Now,
Okay, go ahead.
hey, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just gonna say, I appreciate the public outreach and the information and coming to my meeting and stuff. I guess my question is, one of my questions is, what, in the case of this event happening, and you do shut power off, what are you gonna do to help our emergency services with our constituents whom may need a cooling station or generators or something of that nature? Because a lot of my district, especially out by Roosevelt Tonto Basin, we have a lot of elderly people and things of that nature. And so if power's off for an extended period of time, I'm just kind of wondering what do we, I appreciate everybody knowing it's coming, but in the event it happens, what are we doing to help our constituents?
The early notification, and I appreciate you appreciating that we're doing that. That's key, because we are sharing the same, I think, personal preparedness message that Gila County Emergency Management shares, and we're trying to make sure that right now we're focused on making sure all of the contact information in a customer's account is up to date, so we can. First step is talk to them and help them with preparation. We'll also be working with County Emergency Management on notification when we know one of these events might happen. We're also working closely with Carl and his team to work through the Red Cross and identify locations, see if there's support needed. We are asking County Emergency Management to apply for a grant through APS so that we can help with some funding for his department so that he can expand his outreach. We'll be doing ICE reimbursement, ICE distribution, if it makes sense, when there's an event called. So we're going to do everything we can to support Carl and the Red Cross, because that's really where that community support lies, instead of us doing it directly ourselves. But we're going to be there to support in every way we possibly can. And Carl might have more to add, and I don't know if Richard has more he wants to add there.
Thank you, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. This is also an opportunity for APS to share the programs that we have to support those customers that you're speaking of. So we have a medical monitor program. So with all this outreach we're doing, we're encouraging those who may need power for life-saving equipment to go ahead and sign up. Make sure that they're aware of the program, sign up. So we do direct outreach to those customers when we do have an outage. And this is just basic outage preparation, not necessarily for the PSPS event, but just outage preparation in general. So if we ask our customers and neighbors, if you know somebody who's in dire need of power, obviously we all are, but those customers who are medical equipment, to look into our program. It's all online. They can always call us. We can get them the information. And again, we work with emergency managers on it. We've also been meeting directly with towns in Globe, Miami, just to do planning, because as you know, Miami's an elderly community also. So they wouldn't necessarily come to Globe. So we're working with locations right in Miami to have these cooling stations, shelters, so that they don't have to travel as far.
Now, Richard, do you have a specific website to go sign up on that?
Yeah.
Or is it just APS?
APS.com. All of this information is APS.com/PSPS. But if they go to APS.com, all the medical monitor, it's under the residential programs.
Yeah, we need to have Ready Gila people
Yep.
sign up for Ready Gila as well.
Yep, and that's part of the outreach that we did. And so all of our customers are receiving that this week. And that's part of it, is sign up for make sure your contact information is up to date, but also sign up for Ready Gila alerts, because we work in tandem with emergency management.
And I'm just gonna, if you'll indulge me for a second, I just want to also do a shout out to other community groups that are fully engaging with us. And the one I want to highlight is Pine Strawberry Fuel Reduction and the CERT team that is in Pine Strawberry. I've been working with Elsa down there. They have got an amazing plan for power outages, where they know where they're going to bring and how they're going to support medical patients in the area. They've got a plan for cooling and heating and for water. So it's been really gratifying to see a group like that kind of take hold, because we've been working with them early and kind of take on the planning for their community. So they are a model in my mind if you have any communities, any of your constituents looking on how to support themselves also. So
Yeah, thank you for that. Any more?
No, I would just like to say thank you very much for that information. We have a lot of people online a lot of times, so sometimes I ask questions just so they get information that wasn't in a presentation or something. So thank you very, very much for working so well with our emergency management team.
I will have stuff to add at the end, but I'll go ahead and bring SRP up next to give their presentation if we could.
Very good, thanks. We have two people from SRP.
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Supervisors.
Good morning.
My name is Mark Parker. I'm the Senior Manager for Transmission Line Asset Management and Maintenance at SRP, and I have with me my Director, Jace Kirby, and he is the Director over Transmission Line Design, Construction, and Maintenance. This past year, last year, was our first year in the PSPS, and most of our decisions were based upon historical knowledge, having known where fires had occurred, and we selected 5 specific circuits, and it included 1,600 customers to be impacted by the PSPS. Up here in this area, the same circuits that were included last year will also be included in our PSPS, but it has shrunk considerably, and the reason why it has, we brought on new technology working with a company by the name of Cloudfire. They helped us develop a fire threat model map. Like APS, we wanted to be able to make more data-driven decisions rather than just recalling our history and making our decisions that way. So they developed a fire threat model map, showed us the 3 separate tiers of fire threat, and we spent a great deal amount of time working in those areas, the highest threat model areas, where they're colored red on our map. I apologize, I don't have that map with me today, but they're colored red. And so our folks from operations, vegetation management, and from fire mitigation visited each one of those sites, taking note about what would be the best way to address the fire risk in that area. And most of it was done through vegetation management. We've made a monumental change in not just clearing vegetation from the lines, but also to add defensible space around poles and to clear the fuels that burn so readily and so quickly. So that's been the largest. The other thing that we spent a great deal of time was removing some of our spark emitting devices and changing them out to non-expulsion equipment. So that between those two made a massive difference for some of the areas that we were most concerned about, down closer to the valley. Then we also were able to look at some possibilities for some areas in the future that we'd like to look at for undergrounding. We have not started to do that yet, but that's something we are looking at. The area up here is of greater risk, so we couldn't just primarily do vegetation management only. We needed to do more. So we have several of our circuits that are on a non-reclose program, where if a fault opens up a circuit, it stays open rather than just automatically trying to close. It stays open and we patrol those. So we took about 25 of our circuits and placed it on that program. Then we also have the 5 circuits. There are 2 emergency tie lines and 3 regular circuits that serve customers up here in this area, the Tonto Basin area, a little bit here in Globe, and some over by Roosevelt Lake that will be impacted by the PSPS this year. That is a total of about 100 customers, 198 accounts, but many people own multiple properties. So 99 customers would be impacted by that. That's pretty much the update for this year as far as what we've got ready for the PSPS program. Our public outreach group has been working in measure with the fire chief at both of the substations to hopefully be a big support in having those serve the role of cooling stations, to the question that you asked, Supervisor Humphrey. And so those efforts are going on. We do also reimburse for ice. We have not talked about specifically bringing and delivering ice, but if that's something that we need to do, we can certainly entertain that. But we're definitely going to play a strong support role to help those customers in the area who could be impacted. As far as an aging population or those with medical devices, we spoke with our customer service folks, and none of the folks in this area have registered with us as being on medical devices. But tomorrow night in our community meeting that's going to be held in Tonto Basin at the Desert Community Christian Church, 5:30 tomorrow night. We will be bringing some of those customer service folks with us to help sign up anyone who would like to register the fact that they're on medical devices and that they have specific needs in helping to get to maybe even locations for the cooling stations. But we will play the support role that we need to. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
No, right off, I don't have any questions. I appreciate you reaching out to the public and having public meetings with your customer service people there.
Yes.
They just, yeah, sometimes they don't hear, they don't get information, and so, well, it's in the newspaper. Well, some people don't read the newspaper.
Right.
So thank you very much for being publicly active. in my district to reach out to the people and give them your information.
Yes, and to your point earlier, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the srp.net/PSPS is where the information can be found for our PSPS program.
Okay, you got that? Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Klein.
Mark, thank you. And Janet, one thing with this RP, Mark, is here just a few days ago, I was appointed on an ad hoc committee from Representative Marshall, and it deals with fires, insurance, and all that I'll be participating on. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna give you one of our cards. And if you could, send me your contact information, if you don't mind, if I reach out to you, if I have questions, or I've got Janet's. Yeah, we're pretty covered up with Janet's information, so we're good there. But if I could get yours, I'd really appreciate it, and there's a chance I'll be calling you later on.
Yes, please.
And we'll go from there. The letter I've got is real in depth, and we're going to be diving into a lot of this on that ad hoc committee. So,
Okay.
So I appreciate everything you guys are looking at. I know SRP, other than your big transmission lines, a lot of it is in this lower country, and so vegetation management's a little bit tougher. A lot of your fuels are the fine fuels and things like that. So, anyway, I'd sure like to visit with you somewhere along the way.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So very similar programs, similar solutions. Open circuit occurs. Do you think that's after inspection going to be similar time frame, like up to 20 hours to get that circuit back open again? Or would you say more or less?
I would say it's similar. Our plan at this time, if we need to open any of the circuits, then we would preemptively stage our folks there in order to help that patrol happen in a more expeditious manner.
Okay, thanks. So I think some misinformation kind of gets out there on the internet, and people are worried that y'all going to be just pulling the switch all the time, and there's not going to be any power. And I don't see this actually happening often at all, and hopefully never. Hopefully never. And so that needs to be the message. Be prepared for an outage, but don't think you guys, this is not going to be overused.
Right.
Yeah, it's really precautionary in the worst way when things really go bad.
Our criteria has been set in such a manner as for us to do our best efforts to keep the power on.
Right.
We don't want to turn it off. We never want to have to do that. So,
right.
It's certainly not something that will be done lightheartedly.
Thank you very much. Carl.
So I do want to commend both companies for helping us with outreach. Both have advertised for Ready Gila alerts. This is definitely a unique scenario, as it's not by definition an emergency. It is a planned event, but nonetheless, this could be an emergency to an individual, especially those with medical dependencies. So I do appreciate all the outreach that they've assisted us with and all the outreach that they've taken on their own. And I do want to also kind of reach out to the public and to all of you. Our sheltering operations are primarily and dependent on the American Red Cross. And right now we are still sitting at 2 Gila County residents that are volunteers with the Red Cross. I have met with them because a lot of the concern coming from the public is a lot of our community members don't want to deploy to other parts of the state or beyond. If a resident of Gila County wishes to help with sheltering operations, they can get trained by the American Red Cross free of charge, and they can be upfront and say, I only want to respond within my community, and that is perfectly acceptable. So that is something that I do want to say on record and let all of you know in case your constituents come to you. And I'd ask you to please encourage it. I mean, I know there have been issues in the past where our constituents said, you know, hey, some people are coming in from the Red Cross and running shelters in our community, and they're coming from Phoenix or coming from Tucson. They're not familiar with our community. think the best way to fix that is from the inside. I dream of a day that we call the Red Cross for sheltering operations, and the people that show up are familiar faces in our community. I think that would be the ideal scenario, and I think that we can attain that with more outreach. So we are helping with the notification portion of that. We will look into the sheltering opportunities. I mean, this is something that we've done in the past with winter storms, with outages during extreme heat. So the only difference here is that this is something that can be forecasted. And that's all I have unless there's questions for me.
Thank you, Carl. Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions, Carl. I appreciate all that you have done for us and all we've been through in the emergencies that we've had. And if you could get me the contact information for the Red Cross if someone's interested.
Absolutely.
And I will get that when I'm on the radio, and I will also put that information out there in my public meetings, and I'll try to do it, you know, whenever I have my public meetings and things, just so if there are interested people, because they do come to the public meetings, so they're interested in their community, so they may want to be able to help with the Red Cross. So I will be happy to share that information, and hopefully we can get some more volunteers for that.
Absolutely, and I do have a meeting with them and our community services department next week, just to kind of talk about the resources they have available and see if there's any, you know, overlaps or gaps or anything like that. But I'm also going to be asking them to maybe kind of follow suit with what APS and SRP are doing, showing up to events that we already have scheduled and doing this promotion there. We'd love to help them with it.
Yeah, I think they're, well, like you say, we couldn't do what we do without them. So anything we can do to support them and help them get more volunteers, be happy to.
Absolutely, thank you.
Copy all of us on that if you would.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Klein.
So I've talked about this issue in every meeting I've had since the very beginning, Janet, when you brought it to my attention. And you know, we may have 20 to 50 people sitting in the chairs, and you know, you explain it, but a lot of people still don't understand it. And even though you go in detail and you explain it and you explain it, it's like, oh, that won't ever happen. This is the year that could happen, is this year. You know, we're under pretty bad drought conditions right now across the rim. It's going to depend a lot on how long that's going to continue, I would guess, and that's going to depend on our monsoons and when those are going to roll in. But I can guarantee you through the month of June and last part of May, probably the first part of July, it's going to get tough. It already is tough. And so, you know, a lot of people will be fine. It's the ones with the medical needs that kind of worry me and our older generations. You know, they're there, they you know, they're do what they can, but sometimes they can't do a lot. And so I anticipate us getting those phone calls, Carl, a lot of them. And I've thought about this and thought about it, and I like the question that Supervisor Humphrey asked. But when it comes right down to it, from a county standpoint, there's not a lot we can offer them. You know, this is really something that we can only put out there for our constituents and try and get them to understand the importance of this that could happen, and hope that they'll prepare themselves. But in reality is a lot of people can't prepare for this. They don't have the financial means to do it. They don't have enough money to buy a backup generator or whatever they need to do that. And so we're kind of on uncharted territory, you know, as the county goes. And I know that we will be the ones getting those phone calls. And it's going to be a little bit tough to sit there and tell people there's only very little we can do. And so that's why I'm really glad to hear APS and SRP that are really buckled down and looking at the indices and the conditions and everything like that, making sure it's absolutely necessary to pull that trigger, because that's going to be very important that we don't jump the gun and put people in a position that they're not gonna have an easy time with. And so, my question to you, Carl, would be, what are you gonna need if this comes about? I mean, as far as staffing, as far as what? I mean, have you thought about that?
Absolutely. So I'm a little bit of a preparedness nerd, so I try to think of every potential outcome that could happen. But I also do learn when they finally do. The biggest one is that shelter support. It really is, because if we're on something that's a shorter duration, it may not be necessary. I've learned through my years here that we base shelter off of need, not the type of emergency, because there's been times in the past we've stood up a shelter and not needed it. The Red Cross also for smaller scale emergencies, sometimes it's more resource beneficial for them to offer, hotel accommodations for 1 or 2 families. So those are discussions that are ongoing to be prepared in case we go down that avenue. Another thing to consider is with our notification system, we do have the iPause capability, but iPause can only be utilized in a declarable emergency event. So we cannot utilize iPause for what is considered a planned event. That doesn't stop us from sending our normal notifications through Ready Gila alerts.
Can I ask you a question at this point, though?
Yes, sir.
We know that it'll be a planned event, but it's for a reason. So my question, and I don't, maybe you can answer, Carl, is it's gonna become an emergency when that happens, even though it is a planned event. When you're talking about possibly affecting a bunch of people, it's gonna turn into an emergency pretty quickly at that point in time. So what's the process then? What's gonna happen?
So shelter operations, for sure. If we have the need and there's people say this is a longer event going over multiple operational periods, sheltering options for sure. More than likely in a neighboring community, so we're not running a shelter off of a generator, creating an issue there. We've had IGAs and we've had our own organizations within the county help out with transportation if needed. We have processes in place for that. The state emergency management department has been very much on board with the communications. We've been talking with our neighboring counties to provide support wherever needed. So that, like Supervisor Humphrey said, the biggest need would be that cooling center. And then the biggest mitigation measure that we can make is outreach to people. And one thing that I've been promoting to people, because my biggest fear is if you have a landline, but it's a wireless landline, the assumption is, you don't need power for your landline to call 911. If it is a wireless landline, you do. For anywhere between now $30 and $60 on Amazon, you can buy a battery backup power surge protector that has a battery backup that can keep simple devices like a landline phone or something operational. I would encourage that for homeowners. That's a fantastic thing to have. Lithium batteries, portable batteries have become more and more affordable as time has gone on. And I understand that asking your constituents to have a generator is not always a realistic ask for some folks, but so trying to find more realistic asks that we can recommend to the public to make them better prepared. So yeah, we've gone through a lot of these different scenarios. Actually just had a planning meeting with Maricopa County yesterday to discuss kind of the parallels between our response plans for this type of event. But you're absolutely right. Even though this is a forecasted event and not by definition an emergency, if it's 108 degrees outside and somebody that has a medical dependency, that becomes an emergency very quickly. So we're trying to account for every possibility that can happen and come up with a plan on what we can do to help.
Right. Carl, thank you. I guess, going forward, I think the big key is just stay in tune and see what comes up, and we keep pushing the message out there, and I hope people are listening and taking it serious. You know, some of our communities are used to power outages for the most part. I mean, new people moving in or whatever, they're not, but some of these other places, they're not so used to it. You know, when you're talking Pine, Strawberry, Payson, a lot of them are, you know, power goes out for 30 minutes or an hour. Yeah, occasionally that may happen, but 10 hours, let's say, that's a while. And so it's going to be a learning curve. That's what it's going to be. But Carl, thanks, and I, you know, from my standpoint, whatever you think about or come up with, need to let us know.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be in touch with all of you as time goes on, and you know what we are going to plan as much as possible and think of every possible outcome, but we learn the most from real-time events, so I can almost guarantee you I'll have way more information if that trigger ever gets pulled. It's like, I think it was Mike Tyson that said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's a quote I try to live by.
Right. Thank you, Carl.
Yes, thank you, Carl, and I want to thank SRP and APS for being here today and helping us to understand. And your intention is to keep people safe, not uncomfortable. And so everyone needs to understand that this could be uncomfortable, but it's intended to keep everyone safe. And I hope we don't need to use it, but I'm afraid Supervisor Klein might be correct. This could be a challenging year, so. All right, is that all you have then?
On this one, yes, sir.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, and we'll move on to item 2C, information discussion regarding the completion of the Northern Gila County Water Storage System project. Carl.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. So this project, awesome. So this project initially kicked off in 2006 when the water bladders were installed, and it's been really difficult for me to stop calling these sites bladder sites, but these bladder sites were placed across 14 locations in rim country with the intention of having water accessible anywhere in rim country within 5 minutes via helicopter. This was before my time, but here's the map that those bladders were placed at. We did update the map with a couple of minor adjustments. For example, the rye tanks that location was moved down to the Jake's Corner rest stop. So since I started in this job in 2015, so 10 years now, doesn't feel like it. This has been, no pun intended, a hot topic. The bladders have a relatively short lifespan, and our Public Works Department deserves all the commendations in the world for keeping them going as long as they have. But they have been an issue with just weather deterioration, with animals wanting access to easy water, and those bladders not be outfit to protect that. And then, of course, the unfortunate human element to it, which is the bladders being vandalized. Doesn't take much to drain the water out of these. So in March of 2022, Senator Kelly's office awarded $609,000 in congressionally directed earmark monies to be used for the maintenance of these sites. Once this project made its way down to emergency management, we started discussions with the Gila County Fire Chiefs Association, which served as the perfect hub to have these discussions because they also do include the Forest Service and Department of Forestry and Fire Management to talk about what direction to go with this project. So it was determined that those existing military Desert Storm water bladders were degrading and becoming more and more difficult to maintain and repair. We went out and did site visits of all of these, and they were in various conditions, and I know from talking with Public Works that they were resulting in a lot of day-to-day maintenance. Granted, they did serve an incredibly important purpose, but they needed some help. You can see in some of these closer images here, there's a lot of areas that are held together by glue, patches, and some of the bladders had suffered complete failure. Now I know not to drag my paper across that. So we began the process after the discussion with the Fire Chiefs Association, all of our partners, and of course meeting with the Board of Supervisors on moving forward with replacing the bladders with 5,000 gallon water storage tanks. 4 of those tanks at each site, giving the sites all a 20,000 gallon capacity. Prior to that, the sites had anywhere between 5,000 and 50,000 gallons of capacity, just based on the size of the bladders that were available. It was also determined that plumbing these tanks individually created kind of a fail-safe. We thought of, the realistic possibility that people like to shoot things. So if one of these tanks gets shot, they are not connected together. Only that one tank will drain. We also did order the repair kits, so we are able to repair any kind of damage like that occurs. There's a diagram of what those tanks look like. There's also a huge advantage to having the individual 5,000 gallon tanks as opposed to going with much larger tanks. First was the cost of shipping. Anything larger than this is going to require wide load shipping, which is a huge jump in that shipping cost. And also the accessibility to some of these individual sites would be far more difficult with any tanks with a wider footprint. So these 56 tanks were purchased from Tank Depot and delivered to the Star Valley Yard, where they were then picked up, transported, and installed across those 14 sites, and then outfitted with the appropriate plumbing and filled with water. Supervisor Klein, I know the last meeting that I was unable to attend, you had asked about the plumbing. So the plumbing came in 2 separate parts. The first part, the actual alteration to the tanks itself, it had to be outfitted with the correct, essentially, holes that we could not have an external plumber do without voiding the warranty. However, the parts that actually connect to the hoses and are able to draw the water from could not be shipped installed on those tanks, or they could be broken. So the company did the initial plumbing, which is adding the holes and the gaskets to it, and then we had the plumbing done after the fact, which is actually connecting the hoses, the bits, and everything, and putting that all together. So this is what those tanks look like. They're all pretty uniform. They look the same. The sites all have them kind of in the same layout. There was some granite placed beneath them, making sure that they were level before put in place. And these are, I anticipate, much more resistant to not only weather, but animals and that human factor there of folks unfortunately vandalizing these properties. I should also note that each one of these sites does have a sign on it saying that this is county property, no trespassing. But unfortunately, human nature will be human nature, and there was a lot of events where the bladders were vandalized, and I think that this creates more of a deterrent for that. These are much harder to damage. So the tanks and delivery came in at around $373,000. The installation, $82,000, making the total $456,044.83. The county share being 50% of that was $228,000, and this reimbursement was filed already to the Forest Service. We're expecting it any day now to be reimbursed for that 50% of that, making the county's total cost $228,022.42. We've also had quite a bit of interest in this project. I've had, I think, 4 different HOAs reach out now, asking for any specifics that we can provide because they want to duplicate the project that we've done. I also had the U.S. Forest Service reach out for copies of this presentation and any specs that we have because they'd like to use it as a model of a project to promote for counties across the state and across the U.S. that are prone to wildfire. So that was a nice honor to be used as an example for that. A few thank yous that I wanted to give. First was the Gila County Board of Supervisors for the guidance, of course. Thank you guys for the support and the patience throughout this process. I know it's had its hurdles, but I'm happy to wrap this up. The Gila County Fire Chiefs Association was a pivotal organization to lean on for this, because it has all of our fire districts in attendance, as well as our land management partners. Wayne Jones, specifically from Public Works, that guy has been jumping up to help out wherever he can. He was a huge part of this. Michael O'Driscoll's helped out a lot with this. Every time that I've kind of hit a roadblock, I get to go pester him, and I'm sure he loves taking my phone calls at all hours. Of course, the late great Tommy Klein Martin for kicking this project off in the first place, and it's an honor to kind of pick up there. Tim Scott for helping her with the initial project and then being a part of this prior to retirement, but Jackie Sanders as well. She was a huge part of it. Homero, and then of course Tank Depot and Fansler Resources. Couldn't have done it without all of those partners being involved. And one last thing that I wasn't able to put in the presentation, but Saturday, the slate fire started on Highway 87. I'm sure a lot of folks got a notice for that. If you didn't get a notice, it's because that fire was extinguished at just under 5 acres using water from the tanks at the Jake's Corner rest stop. So if one of the questions is when are they ready? Saturday. They were used Saturday. So
That's great.
yeah, so that's all I have, unless there's questions,
Hey, Carl.
comments.
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions. Thank you, Carl.
Supervisor Klein.
I don't think I do either, Carl. I mean, this is a super good project, and I kind of foresee in the future maybe expanding it a little bit in different areas, but it is a huge plus, and quite honestly, when Tommy started this way back when, you know, my biggest question was, I wonder why she's doing that, because Forest Service, you know, even today with a phone call, they can have a city set up by the next morning. I mean, they can have anything they want to brought in, but this has proven what it'll do, and it's a huge need, and this is mostly designed for the initial attack stage anyway, for that initial start, that first 24 hours. And it's a huge plus, and I really want to thank Senator Mark Kelly for being a supporter of this and helping us on this as well. And I hope some of these, whether it's HOAs or just other outlying communities, you know, take a good close look at this, and it's worth doing, especially the way insurance is today.
With the Forest Service kind of taking on this model and sharing it with their partners and with their fuels management specialists and everything, I think that this may become more of a regular strategy across the state, which benefits us. We've learned from some of these massive super fires that we've had that a neighboring county's fire is also our problem.
It is.
Very well has the potential to be our problem. And this can't be an individual or even just a county effort. This has to be, at minimal, a statewide effort at fuels mitigation and wildfire mitigation. So,
Well, you showed it right there, $470,000 for this project, basically. If you catch it in that first 24 hours, it's already paid for itself. But if it goes beyond that 24-hour period, we're talking millions of dollars really quick. And so it's well worth the investment to do this if you afford to do it.
yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for hanging in there and getting it done.
Oh, of course, and that's a good point that you bring up, because the cost of this project in its entirety is far less than an incident management team maintaining a wildfire operation for a 24-hour period. It's far less.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
And is that all you had?
It is.
Okay, thank you, Carl. So Tommy Martin had a brilliant idea to start this. And so what was our capacity with the bladders? Do you remember, just offhand?
As far as water
Yeah,
capacity,
about
itself,
how many gallons?
That'd be a tough one to estimate because the average site there I'd say was around 15 to 20,000 gallons,
Okay,
depending on the condition of the bladders at that time, because they were the one thing that all those sites had in common was ground saturation, showing that there was leakage. So even though there was a 20,000 gallon bladder at one site, we'd be lucky to be maintaining at 15,000 gallons.
Right.
But the average site would have about 15,000 gallons.
and we still have some bladders that are good, and we're gonna keep them.
Yes, so the bladders will run parallel with those tanks
Right.
until they fail, then they can be removed rather than maintained.
So we've increased our capacity a lot and made it more reliable. There's almost 300,000 gallons of water just in the hard tanks,
Yes.
plus the bladders, so it's really good. And thanks for all your work. It's taken a little time to do it, but it's gonna last for decades now.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yes, sir.
A question. Are they gonna drain those tanks and refill them every season to keep keep them from freezing in the winter?
So they are filled just around between 80 and 90%, which will allow for expansion and contraction to accommodate for freezing and for summer. So they're also treated with bleach, so draining won't be necessary.
Okay.
They're at a good capacity for the time.
Yeah, good, because at one time I heard that they might be, and it was like, that doesn't sound like a great idea and a lot of work to put that water back, so.
Yeah. The maintenance cost and the maintenance efforts should be drastically decreased on our Public Works Department who maintains these sites. These are very low maintenance. There's not a steady leak on just about every one like there was with the bladders.
Right.
And there's not that constant, at least not as constant of a risk of just finding them failed completely when you arrive.
Okay, is that it? All right, thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. So I look forward to that article in the newspaper.
Thank you.
That we're doing good. Okay, so we finally reached item 3, which is call to the public. And call to the public is something that we extend out of courtesy to the public if they have any comments. We can't vote on that. We may discuss or have questions or respond to criticism. But anyway, it is just something that we accommodate for. So I usually like to limit the speaker to 3 minutes, and if it's necessary, I can extend that. We just don't want to get into a real long presentation. So let me ask real quick though, Cassie, do we have anybody on the internet that wishes to participate? And then in Payson, do we have anyone that wishes to participate? Okay, thank you. And we have one person I know of here in Globe. Is there anyone else in Globe? No. And so Mr. David Berry is here, and he's been here before, and he would like to talk about property issues. So please come on up. And you have been here before to discuss property issues.
Yeah, this is about pretty much the same issue. It's just escalated to a point where I'm seeking some help from the county.
Okay.
And this is quite difficult for me to speak about, so if I'm shaky when I'm speaking, please understand that.
Okay.
I'm a property investor in the area. I've purchased a number of lots and buildings. I've been working diligently to, assist the community. I've been able to help 3 small businesses open, as well as provide low-income housing for a number of people. In my goals of providing further low-income housing, I've run into an issue with a few property disputes with neighbors. The main one I'm having issues with is a property located inside of Gila County that's on the border of Gila County and the town of Miami. In this issue, it's become quite untenable, and it's come to the point where the town of Miami's overextended their efforts into property in Gila County. And there's been documented and proven communications that are quite disturbing between a candidate for town council and town management. There's an area of adverse possession attempted to be taken that includes a roadway that has a small chunk of land owned by Gila County, as well as the road road owned by the town of Miami. And this would, if successful, this would have an effect on my easement and egress to my property as well. I've tried to address this issue through the notice of proposed corrections through the Gila County's assessor's office, and I appreciate the efforts of the Gila County's assessor's office as well as the Gila County Sheriff's Department in trying to address it, but it's become to the point where it's untenable. I've been receiving a lot of harassment online from a candidate for town council, up to and including threats to have me chained to a chair and eaten by pigs. In response, the town council, the town candidate for town council stated that I'm better off as piggy food. There's been mentions of use of firearms, including a .30-30, and threats of rapid lead poisoning if I continue my efforts. These have been documented, and I've been able to obtain an order of protection that's been violated, and I'm currently awaiting for that to be further addressed through the court system. The issue that I stand here today to have hopefully redress is to allow the county, or have the county, defend the public property that's attempting to be taken through adverse possession, and to hopefully protect my access to the property as well. There's a line between civil.
Okay, please continue.
Is that my 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Please, yeah, finish your thoughts.
There's a blurred line between the civil and criminal actions, and the town of Miami's overreach into property in Gila County has caused a number of issues. If you guys are willing, I'd be willing to speak with you about these issues. And I thank you for your time today, and I thank the efforts that have been put in to address this issue, and hope to continue to be able to conduct business in Gila County.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Any questions or comments? Supervisor Humphrey.
No, none other than I do believe I have an appointment with you after this meeting, and so that's the only comment I have.
Supervisor Klein.
I don't. You know, apparently there's more to this story too, that you have and whatnot that we haven't heard, but it's in Tim's district, and I'm sure you're gonna fill him in on it. So, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your patience, Mr. Berry, to speak. It's been a long meeting already, but I wish you the best that this can all be resolved. And so I hope we can get you to the right people to do that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? No. And let's move on to our county manager's report.
Nothing further today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, attended a CAG Central Arizona Regional Council meeting on the 23rd, and it was nice because the mayor of Globe, mayor of Miami, and myself carpooled, so it gave us a chance to kind of visit about the community. I will attend a project team meeting on the 30th. We'll hold a Gila community meeting on May 3rd, and I'll attend the Lincoln Day dinner in May. And I heard from Jeremy Plain that Tunnel Forest is now in stage 2 and closed to shooting. No fires unless designated campgrounds, no welding, no starting fires as of, when did he do that, today? Yeah. And so anyway, that's just part of our drought coming into the heat of the season. So we are now in fire closure.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And that's all.
Okay, Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So last Friday, I attended a meeting in Fountain Hills. It was a range meeting with all the permittees. There was probably 75 of us in that meeting that day. In some ways it was good. In some ways it was the same old rigmarole. But what it is the tunnel is taking all the allotments and putting them into one big environmental impact statement for the grazing. And so it's going to be quite interesting how that one's going to shake out. We'll just have to play it by ear and see. One thing I did have the opportunity to talk to Neil Bosworth at that meeting. Some of you know him, some of you don't, but Neil's been our forest supervisor for a number of years. Anyway, he's retired today. I think it's his last day as far as supervisor. And so we have a lady coming in. She's from the Northwest. I haven't had a chance to meet her yet, but she'll be in here taking Neil's position on that. And then I mentioned it a while ago, but I have been appointed to an ad hoc committee, House committee from Representative Marshall, and it's basically to discuss wildfire preparedness and management, insurance coverage both across rural and urban areas in Arizona, accessibility, affordability, coverage gaps in insurance for homeowners and businesses, effectiveness of fire response efforts, and quite a gamut of different parts of the fire world, I guess you'd say. And so, but he put together a very, very good list of committee members. There's Mr. Ethan Alman, James Canlin, Thomas Corretto, me, Gary Morris, Russell Smolden, who's State Government Relations, David Tinney, Navajo County Board of Supervisors, and Tom Torres from the Department of Forestry. And then also on that committee is Walt Blackman, Representative Bliss, Representative Gillette, Representative Griffin, Representative Marshall, Representative Hamilton, and Representative Tozy. So it ought to be a real interesting committee to be a part of. And we're supposed to work on coming up with all the answers by about December 31st. So that's a big, tall order. I don't know where that's going to lead. A lot of people are still faced with cancellations on their insurance policies due to fire. I feel like there's a lot more we can be doing on the ground to, in the way of fuels management, preparedness. I think they're going all right, but it's going to be a really good committee to be on. And it's one that is very, very important to Gila County. So that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck with that. So,
thank you.
It's a good thing. I saw in the paper the other day, if I can trust it, it said that a judge blocked the wolf expansion north of I-40. Have you heard about that? I can't ask him a question. Have you heard about that?
So I do have, on that issue, and I'm glad you brought it up. The Mexican wolf, it's a 10J experimental population, and they had a goal of let's just say 300 wolves. It's right in there, and we're close to it, close to that many that are on the ground. Catron County in New Mexico is absolutely having hell with the wolves, and so there's a big push right now to do away with this program, and it's quite interesting to me as to which way it's going to go. I'm on the coalition of counties between Arizona and New Mexico. I'm on the ECO board, which also addresses that. We've had conversations. They are going to be reaching out, and I think have already started reaching out to counties to support them on their on their movement to do away with this. And so it's going to be interesting. One of the thoughts is that let the wolves reach its management goal and then continue with delisting and downlisting of the wolf population. I know that's not going to be Catron County's thought. They're ready. They're done. They've had enough. Rightfully so. I can't disagree with them at all. And the fact of the matter is, whether the fight is to do away with the program or to start delisting it, it's going to turn into a lot of litigation from the NGOs. That's where it's headed. And that's going to happen. It doesn't matter which road you go down. That's what's going to take place. So I would say for the next 6 months, it's going to be quite interesting on that one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. And I'll also be at the Lincoln Day dinner. I think that's on May 3rd in Payson at the casino, so that should be good. There'll be a few good speakers there. And so I was kind of like looking in the lobby of the TMC building there in Payson, and I was thinking we could expand our offering of information with regard to firewizing, hardening your property, and have some of the other information. So we went ahead and got an additional couple of shelving that I call a kiosk, not really a kiosk, but we set that up. It looks good in there. And so that if anyone needs information on some of that stuff, it's available in the lobby. So that's about all I have. I got stuff coming up, but that's all I'm going to report on right now. So if there's nothing else, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.